You're listening to the Inside the Mix podcast with your host, Marc Matthews.
Hello and welcome to the Inside the Mix podcast. I'm Marc Matthews, your host, musician, producer, and mix and mastering engineer. You've come to the right place if you want to know more about your favorite synth music artists, music engineering and production, songwriting, and the music industry. I've been writing, producing, mixing, and mastering music for over 15 years, and I want to share what I've learnt with you. Hey there, folks, and welcome back to the Inside the Mix podcast, and welcome aboard if you are a new listener. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And to all the returning listeners, it's great to have you back as always. Now, welcome to episode 3 of the 5-day Audience Growth Accelerated Challenge. Quite a mouthful, that. I'm bringing you a special series of podcast episodes all about growing your audience using social media. If you haven't checked out episodes 84 and 85, respectively episodes 1 and 2, make sure to give them a listen before diving into this one. So today, or rather this episode, we're talking about Instagram Reels and TikTok best practices. Let's dive in. Okay, folks, so tip number 1. Now, if you are anything like me, and this is probably an indictment on our generation, although I am a millennial, I hate to give it a label, but there you go, I just did. You probably have a relatively short attention span when it comes to content and when you see content. So what you need to do is get your message out in the first 5 seconds. You need to hook that audience in the first 5 seconds. Why should your audience continue watching your content, your video? Now, I'm saying video here, and you'll find that I use the term video a lot throughout this mini series, and it's because video content probably is the best content to put out there. It's going to perform better than static content. I could be corrected on that. Please do correct me on that. But what I find is video content is much better. And where possible, now this is going to be tricky for some because not everybody wants to put their face online. If you can put your face online, or you can, I don't know, you could have some sort of get up where you have a mask or something. I don't know, something along those lines. I've seen people do it. I saw it recently with a producer who started on TikTok. And the first post they put out was them. You couldn't see their face. I'm not going to name the artist, but it was a brilliant post. And they had something like 13,000, I think it was 13,000 views on TikTok with one post, purely because they were in that video and it was engaging and it was original. And they got the message out in the first 5 seconds. So that's tip number 1. Okay, tip number 2. So you've got that first 5 seconds where you've got your message out there. And if you are doing some form of demonstration or anything along those lines, give an example of the end product at the beginning. I want to know what I'm going to get at the end. If you are doing a run through of a particular technique, whether it's producing, mixing, mastering, content generation, whatever it may be, I want to see at the beginning the learning objective, the learning outcome. This comes from my background as a teacher, where you express what the viewer, what the audience, what the pupil is going to get at the end of it. So I want to see at the beginning, is this going to be worth me watching to the end? Now, to play devil's advocate, you could say, well, how about I put it at the end because I want to leave them on the edge of their seat and they don't know what they're going to get. But if you're thinking that way, I suggest experimenting with putting an example at the beginning and just seeing. On some platforms, I know with YouTube, for example, you can see when people drop out of a video or how much or percentage-wise of they're watching your content, and maybe do an A/B comparison over 30 days and see what works. But from what I've seen and my research and what I've seen in terms of best practice is to provide an example of what they can expect at the beginning. It doesn't have to be the whole thing. It could just be a snippet, because that sort of gets them, okay, I want to see more. I want to see the whole end outcome. So that's my second tip. Okay, so the final tip for this episode is this. This goes back to the previous episode, so episode 85. Where I told you to go and research trending sounds and templates. And this is where now you've got this structure. You've got your message in the first 5 seconds. You've got an example of what the audience can expect. This is if you're doing a demonstration. Obviously, if you're just doing a promotion of your music, then have the best part within the first 5 seconds. Don't have the intro where there's not a great deal going on. Have the bit you're most proud of your music right at the beginning, the heavy hitting part. What you could probably do here is, and I know a lot of the audience do this because I do it, is send it out to your peers and ask them, okay, you've listened to this track. What is your favorite part? Then take all those answers and go with the most favorite part that they've expressed and use that at the beginning of your piece. Once again, don't just use the intro, because if you've got a sort of 10, 15-second intro that is just a pad that's building and building and building, I'm going to quickly swipe by. Now, that might sound harsh, and you may say, well, that's wrong, you should listen. That's probably what I'm going to do. Whereas if it's going to kick straight in with this incredible sort of chorus with guitar, with pads, with singing, with all this going on, then I'm going to stick around because I want to see more. And also, trending sounds and templates. How could you use a trending sound in there? Could you use a trending sound at the beginning to kickstart within those first 5 seconds? How could you use one of the templates I mentioned, where something like CapCut? Could you stick that in there? Now, what I suggest you don't do is just shoehorn this stuff in there for the sake of it, because that's going to only count against you further down the line. So it has got to be conducive to what you're trying to produce. And also, use text in your videos that align with your avatar. Use questions, okay? Ask the audience a question with that text. What we are going to cover next in the next episode are call to actions. So this is where a CTA, a call to action, could come in. But that's tip number 3, folks. Okay, folks, so now it's time to take action. This is my favorite part of these episodes, I've come to realize. And here is what you need to do. So I've only given you one piece of homework this time. I want you to do this. I want you to script or storyboard, depending on how creative you wish to be, 3 30-second reel or TikTok portrait videos using the research from episode 85 and the tips that I've given you today. Okay, folks? So just one thing off the back of this episode, give it a go. And of course, stay tuned for the penultimate episode in our mini-series where we will be exploring CTAs or call to actions and how you can use them. And I'll see you there.